right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. You've seen me in some of these meetings. My name is Noah Pittman. I'm the Associate Dean of Enrollment for the Honors College. Really happy to have you all here this evening. So what we're going to be doing, we're very fortunate this evening to have a couple, actually 5 of our current fellows here at the university join us. We're going to be asking them a few questions as you would with any student panel. But what we want to do is also provide a forum for you to ask questions about the experience of fellows here at the university, about what to expect with your interviews. These are all the experts. These are people who not only interviewed, but obviously did quite well in their interviews since they're now fellows here at the university. So if you have any questions, please stay muted, but type them in the chat. If you have questions as we're going along, just about the fellowship, about the Honors College, anything, my colleague, Michelle King, who is an assistant director in the Honors College for both recruitment and the PATH program. She'll be managing the chat. And if it's a broad question to ask the panel, we'll be asking that this evening. So without further ado, let's let the panelists introduce themselves. Michael, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course, Dr. Pittman. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Furman. I'm a junior here at the university. I'm from Bryant, Arkansas, so shout out to 501 if anybody out there is from Central Arkansas. I'm a history and psychology double major with minors in religious and gender studies, so super humanities, social science guy here. And I'm just super excited to get the chance to give you guys kind of my advice throughout this process, as well as how much I love being here at the university. So excited for tonight.
Well, staying within the 501, Savannah, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my name's Savannah C Paul. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. So yes, also the 501. I'm a pre-med student and I'm majoring in biology with minors in philosophy, psychology, and medical humanities. So little mix of the hard sciences and a mix of more of the humanities there. And yeah, I'm really excited to share my experiences here. Hopefully you guys can learn a bit from what I've done. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, Savannah. Tyrel, do you want to go next?
Hey everybody, I'm Tyrel Page and I'm from Magnolia, Arkansas, and I'm an English education major with a Spanish minor. I'm a sophomore now, but I'm really excited. I hope everyone has a good time.
All right. Thanks so much, Tyrel. Jimmy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my name is Jimmy Donlon. I'm a junior studying marketing and management, and I also have minors in physics and communication, and I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So shout out to the 901.
I'm from Memphis as well. Glad to have you, Jimmy. And Sydney, our last panelist.
Yeah, my name is Sydney Darling. I'm a senior biology and Spanish double major. Like Savannah, I'm also pre-med, so we'll be in med school next year, hopefully. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. I remember the fellowship experience was like really nerve-wracking and I didn't really know what to expect. And I'm sure this year on Zoom, it's like even harder, but I think you guys are gonna do great. So it's great that you're here.
All right. Thanks so much. So we're going to, again, ask a few questions of the panelists. We'll have some time at the end if you want to type questions in the chat, feel free to, or if you have any questions as we're going along, Michelle will be watching the chat. She'll be happy to answer them. So the first question I want to ask the panelists, and feel free anyone who wants to jump in. You know, one of the questions we get a lot from prospective students, especially our fellowship finalists, are about honors courses at the university. What are they like? What makes them different? So what makes them different from other courses you take, and what's the experience been like for you working with professors in those courses? Feel free to jump in.
I can go ahead and jump in. So it's kind of funny. I almost consider myself sort of the patron saint of the Honors College signature seminars and the retro readings. These Honors College courses are so interesting to me because they really try to create an interdisciplinary environment, as well as just a more focused environment in terms of just academic success. Thinking about sort of my gen ed courses that I took honors, what I enjoyed most about them compared to sort of my AP classes in high school is that I was still challenged, but I was challenged with less busy work and a lot more critical thinking and a lot more work that really made me expand my interests rather than just kind of take in curriculum at the same time. So I'm going to let some other people add on that, but that's really my experience.
Definitely. I've only taken a few of those Gen Ed honors and a bunch of honors forums. But they're definitely different from the AP classes because you're not, yeah, there's a test at the end, but it's usually more about the content, like way, way, way more about the content.
I can speak on behalf of maybe taking an honors, chemistry course for your chemistry major or biology major, major specific classes that you can take honors instead of regular courses. The classes are much smaller. I find that the professors are, like university wide, the professors are great, but I feel like the honors professors, they're usually like, they're pretty cool. They have really cool research that they care a lot about and help you apply what you're learning in class. And also, since it's a smaller class, these professors are like, especially in your major, are really good professors that will write you like a rec letter or that kind of stuff, because I know many people are interested in grad school. So
I would say for me that honors courses have been a great chance for exploration. So, like it's been mentioned so far, there's a lot of multidisciplinary work, and you can also move outside of what exactly your major is. So, I've been able to explore Tibetan Buddhism, philosophy of race and gender, which kind of stray a little bit away from that core curriculum that you feel like you need to be taking, and you get to kind of open your mind to everything else that's out there and really enjoy all the disciplines that a university has to offer.
I think in my experience, what Tyrel said was the most accurate representation of the differences that I've noticed, where it's more of an emphasis on learning material and there's probably not as many assignments. I've been in honors courses that just had 4 tests in them. And then compared to other classes that you might take at the university that aren't honors, they're going to be a lot smaller, probably about half the size usually.
All right. Well, thanks, y'all, for talking about honors coursework. Another question we get asked a lot about our honors college specifically is the research project or creative project in some cases that ultimately leads to a project you complete, an honors thesis, or along with a presentation at the end of your senior year. I know all of you are at different stages of the research process. Some of you are just getting started. Some of you are just about done with the research process. Could each of you talk about your experiences so far with research and any advice you have for a student who would be coming in and getting involved with research? Jimmy, do you want to go first?
Sure. So as I said before, I study marketing and management, and a lot of people in business will make their thesis more of a paper than sort of an applied social project like I did. So there's a lot of ways that you could go, but mine focuses on the intersection of homelessness and employment. And so when I was a freshman, I entered actually a speech contest, and the object of the contest was to find a social problem in Northwest Arkansas and write a speech about a feasible solution to that. So what I focused on was homelessness in Northwest Arkansas, which is a big problem, and the aspect that the Walton College of Business specifically could handle most reasonably was job training, because you have those resources on campus if you're a student. And what that evolved into was a project where I bring Goodwill's Career Services, which is a 4-week job training program, to different centers that are for people experiencing homelessness and job insecurity in Northwest Arkansas. And while we're there, the Goodwill employee teaches the class for me. And then I track essentially the success of the people that take the course on the job market for the next 3 months.
Anyone else want to jump in? Michael, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can. So my research looks a little bit different than Jimmy's because my thesis will be written under my history degree. And so I don't know if anybody is from Fort Smith here, but that's kind of the focus of my history project. In 1975, when Saigon fell in Vietnam, Fort Chaffee and Fort Smith took in about 50,000 Vietnamese refugees. And this refugee camp sort of served as a place where these individuals were sort of being assimilated into American society. And the United States government was really trying to get them to towards citizenship, just to create that environment. And so what my thesis project specifically is looking at is it is an oral history project, which basically means I'm interviewing individuals who lived in that refugee camp and then have since moved into Fort Smith and the Fort Smith area. More specifically, I am looking towards the development of religious centers and religious communities after leaving the refugee camp. And so it starts to get really specific, and that's something that I kind of encourage. It's what happens when you start this process of your thesis research is you start with something really big. Like I knew I wanted to do an oral history project over religious history in Arkansas. And kind of as I started looking for sources and looking for what I was really going to focus on, I found this really awesome story about this community that is still alive and well in Fort Smith today, who have people who were born in Vietnam and then did immigrate into the United States. And so that's something I'm still very much in the early stages of my project. As a junior, I'm working towards really laying the foundation and sort of the timeline for how that works. But I am so much an advocate for all humanities research as well too. It's something that's super important, especially just for our very own state. And with organizations like the Pryor Center here on campus that allows me to sort of use their resources and the technology that they have to kind of continue my own research, it's been a really awesome experience. And I really look forward to diving in even further as I go along this path.
I have some research experience that kind of goes beyond Arkansas. So I guess the flip side of what Michael talked about a little bit. So 3 things about me. I really love the tropics. I really love bird watching. And my mom is from Belize. And I ended up finding a research project where I got to combine all 3 of those. So I was able to travel to Belize and Costa Rica to collect tropical bird nests. And we've brought them back to the lab to look for antibacterial properties, is the sum up of what's happened over the past year and a half or so. And I will say this all was kind of spurred along by a study abroad program that I went on the summer after my freshman year. So it was kind of a situation of one opportunity bleeding into another. And now it's been this really long project, my honors thesis, that I actually really enjoy. I'm very passionate about. How can you say no to traveling to tropical countries to collect bird nests? I mean, that's something I don't know if I would have ever done if I had ended up somewhere else, or if I hadn't have taken the leap and gone on my first study abroad program. So I hope that everybody finds a project that they're excited about. And I think you'll realize it's a lot less scary when you're doing something that you actually enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, I can speak on my research project as well. I'm doing my research in my biology major, and it was always really intimidating to me as a freshman or just as an underclassman. I was really nervous about like finding a professor to be my mentor. But I actually found my research project by taking a class called disease ecology, which is kind of like the study of like pandemics. So I took this pre-COVID, so it kind of came in handy a little bit, but yeah, so my research professor, I just met with him and I was like, I'm really interested in what you're doing. He's a super cool guy. He's actually like discovered a strain of Ebola with a team in Africa. So that's really cool. And so he helped me find a project here in Arkansas. So I kind of gave him like what I was interested in, and what's awesome about these professors is that a lot of them will help narrow it down or help you find something specifically to start on. So I work with the USGS Arkansas Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Research Unit. And essentially in the duck hunting season of 2019 to 2020, sorry, my dog is loud. I went to Stuttgart and like other places in the Delta during duck hunting season, and I swabbed a bunch of ducks that had been legally hunted. And I've been screening them for coronavirus, which is exciting because if you didn't know, our ducks can carry like zoonotic diseases like coronavirus. Lots of species do. I was also screening for avian influenza, but that's, before pandemic wiped out like undergrad research for a second, but we're back. It's exciting. So yeah, I got to have a lot of field experience and also in the lab experience. So I actually get to run the qPCR and stuff, which is the same test that if you're getting tested for COVID and it's not a rapid test, it's the same kind of system. So yeah, it's been really fun and kind of a good experience all around.
Yeah, it's been really great hearing about all these theses. This is, I'm a sophomore and I'm in English education. It's a bit of a newer major on campus, so there wasn't a ton of tracks that I already had to follow, so I got to make my own. So I knew that ever since I was a kid, I had loved both video games and books, so English and video games. I want my thesis to combine both of those in a very specific way, in a very practical way, like how Jimmy mentioned earlier, a lot of theses focus on just the paper. I'm focusing on teaching the English, teaching high school level English using a video game. Sounds crazy, but I'm loving every minute of it.
All right. Thanks, Tyrel. Yeah, that's my wife's a teacher and they're always looking for new teaching methods. So that's fantastic. Interested to hear what you find out. So, research is a big part of our program. I know some of you have studied abroad, some of you have not. I know we get a lot of questions about studying abroad. What does that look like? Savannah mentioned a little bit about hers, but I know Michael, Savannah, and Sydney, all of you have studied abroad while you've been in college. So well, we start with Sydney. Sydney, can you talk about your study abroad experiences and what got you to those study abroad locations?
Yeah, so I've actually had the privilege of studying abroad twice, which has been really awesome. And definitely if I hadn't gone to U of A and hadn't had the fellowship, this would have been completely out of the question. But the fellowship's great because it helps you finance, of course, these experiences. So my summer after my freshman year, I went to Puebla, Mexico, and I lived there for 2 months in a homestay. I was learning Spanish with my host mom, and as a group, it's a university-led program, so it wasn't like exchange or anything. We were there, we got to shadow in hospitals there and see like lots of surgeries and that kind of stuff. And then I also studied abroad the summer after I guess it was my sophomore year. So like 2019, I went to Sweden on the Healthcare in Sweden program. And that's also faculty led from the U of A. So it's like a group of students, which means it's just a group of students from the U of A. It's not like you and by yourself, or you can do whichever kind of program you want. But that's kind of like what I went to. And we just learned about the Swedish style of healthcare, and it was really informational, and I got to learn more about American healthcare as well.
I can kind of jump in next and talk about my experience. So echoing what Sydney said, the fellowship definitely made my study abroad experience happen. Like it probably would not have been something that would have been an option to me without the financial support of the fellowship. And so I honestly am one of those people who, I know you hear about the stereotypical, like they studied abroad one time and won't stop talking about it, but that is 100% me because I just fell in love. Like Jimmy's laughing because he knows me, and I just absolutely fell in love with my study abroad program. Kind of Savannah kind of mentioned this, but our university is one of the only universities to have a Geshe Rampa Tibetan Buddhist monk born in Tibet teaching on campus. And so Geshe is just this really awesome man who takes a trip every other year to India. And what we do is we go to India and we go to Tibetan refugee sort of communities. These used to be really small communities that over time have built up into very large cities and just other great communities. And what we do, you're going to start to hear why my thesis starts to sound like it does, is what we did in India is we went and administered an oral history project to where we collected stories of these Tibetan refugees who had to leave Tibet underneath the Chinese occupation and move into India and just kind of learn about the community development that they had and how this all went down and how they have now created this community. I got like the awesome experience to go to the Dalai Lama's temple in Dharamsala, India. I got to meet with these people who have just come from all sort of walks walks of life and found themselves in various parts of India. And it really did help me shape both my academic interest and my thesis project all at once. And just being around Geshe-la is, of course, an awesome experience. And so if any of you are interested, it's called the TEXT program, TEXT, and you can just look that up in Google and it'll probably pull up. But I definitely study abroad if you attend this school with the fellowship, because it's something that you just have the financial support to do. And it really does sort of broaden your academic horizon to help you find both your interest personally, as well as potentially for a research project as well, that I know Savannah will probably love to talk about too.
Yeah, so study abroad was really one of the main reasons that I chose the University of Arkansas and the fellowship option to have the financial support to just kind of jet set around the world. So I studied abroad twice, and actually both were after my freshman year. And I will say, somewhere in high school, it was put in my head that if you want to get into medical school, you can't study abroad. You can't do things that are kind of outside of the pre-med curriculum. You won't have time in your schedule. I found that that isn't necessarily true, especially if you're taking advantage of your summers, your winter breaks. In that case, it's really not impeding on your semester at all. And there are a lot of people who do successfully study abroad for a semester and still go the pre-med track. So if that's hot on anybody's mind. After my freshman year in that summer, I went to Belize, which is where I met Dr. Cannon, who's actually from the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. And he is the one who really catalyzed my research project that I really just finished up this year. And then at the end of that summer, I traveled to Australia, which was another faculty-led program. Both were very focused on biology, so a lot of trekking rainforests, a lot of let's see here, kayaking, canoeing kind of stuff, a little bit of outdoorsy things, which I hadn't done much of before this. I've still not ever been camping. So it really is a great way to get you out of your comfort zone, to be immersed in an environment with people you don't know, have maybe met a couple of times before. I didn't study abroad after my sophomore year, but I was able to travel, again, thanks to the fellowship. That was research travel, so kind of tangentially related. And you'll find that there are different grants to support you as well through the Honors College. I was on the Honors College short-term travel research grant to go collect my nest samples. So, and then the fellowship supplemented what I wasn't able to cover through the grant. So you'll find that opportunities really just keep on coming. And then I would have loved to study abroad after my junior year, but none of us were traveling anywhere around then. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Sean. That has been a big concern for us, not being able to send students abroad for basically the last year. Hopefully in the very near future, we'll be able to continue to do that. Another question we get asked a lot from prospective students, fellowship finalists, is about your life outside of the classroom. You know, how do you find time to be involved with extracurricular activities, internships, you name it, when you're an honor student? So I want to ask this of everyone. Could each of you talk about some of the activities you're involved with, extracurricular wise or in your community? And how do you find time to balance those activities with your studies? Why don't we start with, let's see, I don't know who's gone first yet. Sydney, would you like to go first?
Sure, I can go first. Yeah, so I find that in my undergrad, I've gone through kind of phases of like, I feel very overwhelmed and busy. But then other times, like now my senior year, it's slowed down a lot. So don't like worry, you're going to have plenty of time to do things that you still like love to do. And you'll also find a lot of new things at U of A that you also didn't know that you were interested in. So I've always been interested in healthcare. And I've known I wanted to be a doctor for a while. So I kind of just like looked around U of A's RSOs, which are student organizations. I found something called Dance Marathon, and we just fundraise money for our local Children's Miracle Network hospital. So I've been able to do that. I also volunteer at Arkansas Children's. It's just 10 minutes away, so you can get those experiences. You can also shadow, of course, anywhere. But I also like doing things that don't involve a commitment. Like I have free time to like go hiking or read for leisure or that kind of stuff, or just make new friends and hang out with my friends at the moment. So that's pretty nice.
Tyrel, you want to go next?
Okay. My freshman year, first semester, I was overjoyed when I found the jazz band. That has nothing to do with my major at all. But my back home in Magnolia, we didn't have one at the time. We never had a jazz band, and the only jazz type um, trumpet experience I had was playing in church, and it was like this big music thing. And so when I came here and found that I could continue that kind of thing, and it would fit into my schedule, because it's only 1 credit hour, and you have to have maybe 12, 15, right, to keep the fellowship every semester. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Um, Finding that it only had 1 credit hour and you could just sort of slide it into your schedule whenever was perfect.
If Michael is the patron saint of Honors College signature seminars, I'm probably the patron saint of hanging out with my friends. I have never in my academic career, even like 1 week, found that I had too much schoolwork to focus on things that I really enjoyed. Balance has not ever really been a problem for me. And also with the free time, apart from just things that I really enjoy that have no bearing on, my resume, I also picked up those 2 minors that don't fit in at all with my normal degree plan just because they're things that I like doing, physics and public speaking. And last semester, I spent a considerable amount of time on a project to fundraise for local nonprofits. And so it's just never been an issue at all for me.
I can just say personally that my campus involvement has been like the perfect addition to my academic career. I kind of freshman year just kind of dived in wholeheartedly into campus involvement. A couple of those organizations are the Associated Student Government, which is basically, as it says, student government here at the university. They have a program called the Freshman Leadership Forum, which is sort of this introductory program into campus leadership, as well as just how to become involved on campus. I actually have the honor to get to lead that organization this year. So if you guys look up ASG UARC, that's also something that you can look at. But other things that I've done on campus is I'm also a member of the Distinguished Lectures Committee, which is the committee that brings high class lectures to campus. I don't know if you guys have kind of dug around on campus at all, but we're a group that's brought Bill Nye, we've brought Laura Bush, we've also brought Laverne Cox. So it's really this awesome sort of array of speakers that we get to bring to campus. And it's a place that I sort of get to flex different muscles than I do in the classroom. So while in the classroom, I'm focused on more of like critical thinking and just like academic integrity and just like gaining these skills. In my campus involvement, I really am focusing more on sort of organizational management, leadership skills, and I get to kind of build those two sides of me so that way I can kind of be as well-rounded as possible. And what's really awesome about that, I think, is that when you're on campus, I feel perfectly balanced in terms of my challenge from my coursework and my challenge from my involvement, and still have the time to sort of do the typical college experience of hanging out with my friends, hiking on the weekends, because Northwest Arkansas has some of the best hikes in all of Arkansas. And what's been really awesome is that I've been able to have all these experiences and still kind of pressure my peers to do the same too, especially as my role right now is to mentor freshmen to find their space on campus. And one thing that I've just learned throughout my time doing this is that there is a space for absolutely everybody, whether you were like class president of your high school and you want to go down that path again, or whether you're like Tyrel and you find jazz band and like that's something that's just your interest and you want to pursue that. There really is a space for everybody. And I think that it's how you really make the most of your college experience. And so in terms of balancing, like the other really awesome thing is you have professors and you have the Honors College staff who are here to help you and provide you with resources when you do have a busy week. When you need tutoring for this one test, there are all these resources in place that allow you to take all these opportunities One thing that I kind of talk about with some of the honors college staff is that it's important to have a bias to yes. So when you find opportunities or when you presented with a challenge, you have a bias to say yes and kind of just take it on, really because you do have the support and the resources to make sure that you're going to fulfill all these roles and all these tasks that you've taken on. So for all that to say, I just am the biggest proponent of campus involvement and campus leadership, and definitely think that you guys should consider that when you come to the university.
I know that one thing I heard coming into the university setting was you're not in school from 8:30 to 3:45 anymore. Your classes are somewhat scheduled by yourself. I mean, there are some places where, you may get locked into a time slot, but overall, you have a lot of flexibility in scheduling your classes, and there's a good chance you might not spend every day, all day on campus. I know for me, all of that free time was really a blessing, and being able to actually take my time with courses, learn things myself, get homework done, get studying done. So I think that if you budget your time well, you might find that it's really not too overwhelming, especially compared to having to sit in a classroom or a building all day for high school, because a lot of that time is a lot more productive once you get to the university level. I think one thing that's really helped me with balancing everything is working on my schedule in advance. So I'm pursuing my biology major, and then I have three minors in the humanities. And it sounds a little overwhelming, but with the course overlap and scheduling out in advance what classes I want to take in what semesters, that has been so helpful in actually being able to take all of these courses that I was interested in. It was really about, oh, I really want to take this course and this course. How can I make it work together in a minor instead of scrambling to try and get all of my credits and requirements in? I am also active on campus. So I started an RSO, a student organization, in my freshman year called CME, Support Education and Awareness for Marine Ecosystems. Yes, the ocean in a landlocked state. That was kind of the point, get some ocean awareness here in Arkansas. And you'll find that through a lot of student organizations, you can get that volunteering as well as leadership and community service. So some of the stuff that my student organization does is teaching in preschools and elementary schools. We started up the first public viewing display of a saltwater aquarium on campus, and we also work to maintain that. So you get kind of a lot of that fulfilling community volunteerism by also having fun and meeting new people and doing something that is extracurricular. So you definitely have time to introduce some balance in your life. I would say just maybe if you're not a big planner, take a little bit of time at the start of the week and just maybe figure out what you have going on, what's coming up. And I think that'll be really helpful because you will have a lot of time on your hands some weeks, maybe more than others.
All right. So I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll open it up. Feel free to type questions in the chat. For all the people, for everyone on the panel, it's kind of a two-part question. First off, what advice can you give to the finalists to help them prepare for their interviews this Monday? And two, do you have any advice for them in terms of what they should do when they're making their final college decision? What did you consider? What do you think what were important to you? Any strategies you used to make your college decision? Let's see, Jimmy, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure. Let me marinate on the first question for a second. But as far as the second one, I think it's really important to think about where you're going to be a priority for the university. If you get invited to Fellowship Weekend, you obviously have the qualifications to go to almost any school in the United States that you want to. But in a lot of those schools, you're going to be another student and you're going to have to really push and shove to get things done. And you're not going to have all the opportunities that are going to be available to you here, where Dean Pittman might email you a week in advance and say, do you want to talk to 40 high school students? And that's just one of the million of opportunities that you get as a priority fellowship student. As far as interview advice, I usually tell people to look at the things that they've done in high school and what their plans are for the future, and try to transform that list of numbers and titles and clubs on your resume into a cohesive story that you can tell to the people that are interviewing you, because you don't want it to feel like question response job interview. You want it to feel like a conversation between you and the people in the room.
That's really good advice. Thank you, Jimmy. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I'd actually like to follow Jimmy because he took the words right out of my mouth. So I just finished up with the medical school application process, which involves interviews as well and choosing schools and figuring out where you'll go. So I can kind of relate to high schoolers coming into the university setting. And one thing that's been big for me, I mean, it's kind of fresh on the brain with interviewing, is the schools that have seemed to value me in a way. So the schools that really treat applicants with respect and give you the right vibe, make it feel like they want you to be there. That has been so important, especially in a cycle that's as long as something like applying for undergraduate or applying for medical school. A lot of it feels like a haze, a lot of it's overwhelming, and you feel like you're being judged and competitive. But when a school gives you the chance to kind of sit back and enjoy the process, then there's a good chance that it's a good place for you. Maybe it's a good fit. I will say for interviews, one thing that I kind of like to remind myself and others when we're talking about this is that you've put in a lot of the hard work already. I mean, you've gone through 4 years of high school, you've built your resume, you've turned in your application, you've done all of this personal growth. So your interview, I mean, that's just expressing it. So you've kind of done the hard work already. So just kind of keep that in mind.
I can jump in on this one. I like all of you had a few options on my table when I was considering where I was going to end up for the next 4 years. And it's kind of funny because I really wasn't considering Arkansas that much at all. I didn't say this before, but I'm from Bentonville, so I was like really conflicted because I was like, I don't want to stay so close to home. Like I feel like college is the time to like get out and try new things. So I actually was considering like going to OU. So no matter what, don't like rule any college out, especially not U of A if you feel like it's too close. Because I can say like I've really experienced Fayetteville and Northwest Arkansas in like new ways, and the state and beyond, because of the fellowship. And another thing is this is kind of like I'm kind of a realist, so this might not be something that everyone considers, but I'm sure parents might like to hear it too. Just that the fellowship has literally given me so much financial stability, to not have to go into med school with loans already. That's honestly like a huge relief off my shoulders, and it helps you enjoy college so much more when you're not like worried about how you're going to pay for it. So if that's something you're considering, yeah, don't worry about like staying too close to home because you'll find new people. My best friend, I met her when I was living in HOTS on the fellowship floor. She's all the way from California. So just saying, you'll meet people that you, not just people that you've gone to high school with, if that makes sense. And in terms of interview advice, I hate like to be cliche, but like just be yourself. Make sure you go over your application and any of the essays you wrote. I'm not sure if they still do that. I remember writing some essays before the interview process started. So if you mentioned any books that you read or that kind of stuff, or just think about things that have really like drawn you to this point in your life, like Jimmy and Savannah were saying. Of course, you don't need to know like your entire life future. I definitely didn't. So just kind of just share what you're passionate about, and they'll really see your personality shine through.
I know that I'll start with my interview advice and then I'll move on to college decision. But for interview advice, kind of what Sydney was getting at is you just simply do not have to have all the answers. Like I interviewed for the fellowship with a completely different future plan than what I have right now, then the majority of that is you are really going to change throughout your college experience, just your personality and like your interests and your goals. So go into that interview, those faculty members, they know that you have a vision for yourself now, but they are also so excited to mentor you and help you refine that vision even further. So if you go in and you don't know what you want your major to be and you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do, that is completely okay. Just show them that you have the enthusiasm and the engagement to really want this mentorship and want this advice to find that future career and find that future path. And kind of like, as everybody else has said, for more like hard kind of interview tips, really just look over your essays and look over your resume and make sure that they're not going to surprise you with anything that you should already know yourself. And like Jimmy was saying earlier, there is a story of your life, whether you've kind of narrated it to yourself or not, based on your engagement in high school. It's why you got this opportunity to interview. It's what they saw as well. So just make sure that you tell that to yourself and that you have the confidence to know that there's a reason you're there and they're excited to meet you, and show them that enthusiasm back. And I think those are just kind of the best ways to show engagement and want for an opportunity. In terms of college decision, I know that just like all of you, I also had some other options on the table. For the parents, it really is that financial help has been just golden. I know my parents have thoroughly enjoyed not having to sort of support me at all throughout college. And for students, I know that sometimes that's not always the most fun thing to talk about. But outside of that, I do want you to know that I have never once regretted my decision to come to the University of Arkansas, because I really have gotten the mentorship and just the resources that I need to better myself and to take those opportunities and to take those risks further down my college career. I've had the option to apply for nationally competitive awards that I've competed with people in Ivy League schools and in those other schools across the country. And so it's not, you're not limited by your experience here at the University of Arkansas, but I think you really are even bettered by coming here to the university. There is something so special to me, especially being an Arkansan, coming to this school and seeing sort of, as I've grown up in this state, sort of the culmination of experiences that can come and find themselves here in Fayetteville, as well as being in a city that really is trying to push itself to be better every single day. And that's what makes us as students push ourselves to be better every single day. So I hope to see you guys on campus, just because I know that I love being here, and I hope that you guys can fall in love with it as much as I have too.
I agree with what everybody said about the interview. Just be yourself, show your passion and everything. But about the college decisions, I am from about 5 hours away down south in the same state. So I had never even been up here before. So it was, and I had some other out of state options. So I thought, since it's so far away, why not just go out of state? And it's the same thing. But that I wouldn't have had the financial stability that I would have had here with the fellowship. It's just nice to be able to focus on just my studies and what I want to do and planning ahead.
All right, thanks all of you. So we've got about 15 minutes. If you have questions you want to ask the panelists, if you want to ask specific questions to someone or just general questions, we're going to open it up for the next 15 minutes. Feel free to type them in the chat. Michelle, as questions are coming in, feel free to ask the panelists those questions. But please, this is your time to hear. Usually we're here for fellowship weekend. We're on campus. You get to meet the mentors face to face. It kills me that we can't do that this year. I've been here 12 years and we've never had to do anything like this with Zoom. This is your time to ask questions of the group. Michelle, any questions?
Sure. I'm going to jump right back to the beginning because I do want Thomas to really get his question answered. And I do think that you all are not too far removed from high school as far as our panelists go. So Thomas wanted to know how much harder are college classes and honors classes than AP classes specifically. So I know you all talked about your honors courses earlier and kind of the experiences with those, but if you could compare them or just talk about your college courses in general, how much harder do you feel like those are than your AP classes that you remember taking in high school?
I can say, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I could say there are a lot more projects involved and a lot less tests, a lot fewer tests. So for me, that's been really hard because I did well in the testing environment thing. I knew it wasn't perfect, but it helped me. And then coming here, I have um, a bunch of projects in the honors classes now, and they're a lot more fun, but they're a little more challenging, which is nice, but it's still challenging.
Yeah, I would agree that I think that saying harder or easier is a little difficult to do because one thing that I've really enjoyed about college and honors classes is you don't have the stress of an AP exam. So yes, you have final exams, midterm exams, but there was something about that national AP exam that just really ruffled me up. I don't know. I found that to be really stressful. And of course, you're talking about it all year. You know that all these other kids are taking it. They put you in a room and you all take it together. You're taking exams together in college too, but it doesn't seem quite as strict and a little overbearing in a way. And again, too, the projects, papers, concepts seem a lot more enjoyable because you're going beyond the introductory level. So I've actually found that my upper level biology classes are somewhat less challenging material, not so much material actually, but workload wise. So comparative neurobiology sounds really challenging and like something you might want to run away from, but it was actually more about enjoying the content and reading research papers and discussing those things. So it's definitely different, but it's hard to say if it's more difficult or easier, just different.
Yeah, if I can jump into one thing that I would say is I've kind of found myself in both of these situations. I've changed my major while I was at school. So I've taken the honors chemistry too, as well as the art history honors seminars all at the same time. So I've kind of had both sides of the coin in terms of like STEM versus humanities honors coursework, which I know other people have too. But one thing that I found very specific in both of these instances is kind of what Savannah was getting at, is it's less about sort of that heavy homework, heavy worksheet kind of work. And it is much more about like critical thinking. I have to engage with this material and talk about it with my peers, as well as the fact that my professor has this very specific research that they're super passionate about and super knowledgeable about. And rather than it sort of just being a generic sort of overview of courses, it really is like you get a specific, but still overarching view of sort of content in these courses. So kind of like we've said, and I know it doesn't really answer the question if it's harder than AP courses, but I think there's a little more nuance to the fact that these courses are challenging you in a different way than the AP classes are challenging you. For in my opinion, for the better, because kind of like we said, standardized testing as a student isn't everybody's favorite thing all the time. And so rather than kind of worrying about this test at the end, that's like, this is going to sort of determine my success. It really is much more of a personal growth experience that you get to decide and you get to do with your peers. And you still get to decide. One thing that I'll say for like my humanities courses is a lot of times the projects are much more focused on what I want to pursue rather than just like what the assignment is. So for a lot of papers I've written, it's much more open-ended and I get to put in my own perspective and my own like wants into the project rather than it being sort of like a step-by-step rubric project that I know AP courses kind of fall into the hole of having to complete a lot of the times.
Yeah, let's follow up on that. I'm sorry, Michelle. There was a question, when you say seminar, are you considering that to be synonymous with classes?
Yeah, so I can just talk about those a little bit if that's okay, Dr. Pittman. So seminars are courses that are usually administered by the Honors College or by your individual college. And these courses, it is just like a 3-hour class, like any other class you would take. I know that when I was your age, I still didn't really know what 3-hour courses meant, but it'll make sense when you get there. And so these seminars are usually smaller classes where it is much more discussion based than it is sort of like heavy project. It's heavy workload based. And so these seminars honestly have been some of my favorite classes that I've taken so far. The Honors College seminars that were my favorite were like Bad Medicine with Dr. Trish Starks. She's incredible. It's just, you get to find really specific sort of courses that are those interdisciplinary courses. And so it is synonymous to class. But to me, it's even better. And so when you hear the word seminar, I would chase after it, because those are what my favorite courses I've taken so far have been.
Okay, so we have these two questions I'm going to kind of combine. Marshall was asking, are any of you involved in any clubs? And then right behind it, Stephanie had asked, what was the process like in starting a club / RSO? And I know Savannah was talking earlier about her organization, See Me, that she started on campus. And so y'all can all talk about your involvement, but Savannah, if you want to touch on the process of what it was like to start. And I'm not sure if somebody answered that in the chat already, but yeah, if any of y'all want to dive into that, that would be great.
Yeah, I was typing it up and I realized, this would be easier to just say. So it has been a while. It's been about 3 years since my organization was started, but overall it was very doable, and you do have support to do it. It's not something where it's a stringent process where you have to have the best idea that's completely laid out and very solid. If there's something you're passionate about, if there's something that you want to see on campus that isn't already on campus, you can bring that idea, develop it, meet with, I'm blanking on the name of the group on campus that kind of approves RSOs. It's SUI?
SUI.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. There's a part of campus that is kind of in charge of the registered student organizations. And I don't know that much about SUI, so I'm sure somebody else can step in and talk more about it. But for my organization, the things that I remember needing to start were a constitution that kind of outlines officer roles, your purpose, what you intend to do, things like that. To get your rules down on paper, you need, I believe, 3 officers to start: a president, vice president, and a treasurer. And then you need a certain number of founding members. So all of this is outlined online. It's readily available for students to look at. So if you have an idea, you have a passion, you can definitely, and of course, other people have a similar passion and want to join you in your endeavor, it's definitely something that you can do.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add before I move on to the next question? Okay. Okay. So Olivia had a question about the environment and honors. And I know you all have talked a lot about kind of your interactions with your honors professors. And hopefully you could talk a little bit more about your interactions, I guess, with your honors peers as well. But Olivia wanted to know, is the environment and honors more competitive or collaborative?
I can jump in on this one. I can say from personal experience, BHS, like my high school, was very competitive. I felt like it was really cutthroat for a high school, which was kind of exhausting. But I feel like you can make your college experience, whether that be honors or not, as competitive as you want it to be. It's really great because in college, you don't really need to like, if you succeed, no one else has to fail, so everyone else can like do very well, do their own thing. There's not really like a huge competition to be number one. Like, you can graduate with the highest honors, there's not like a limit, and there's no like ranking system. And I can only speak on behalf of like walking on the campus of a few Ivy Leagues. I don't know, it felt very uppity on campus, and like everyone kind of felt really like in a hurry and stuff. But I can say that on the U of A campus, it feels very like warm and like homey, and people say hello to each other on campus and study together. So your professors really want you to succeed, and I don't think that it feels very cutthroat or anything. So yeah.
I would agree that it's not very competitive at all. There was a question in the chat that got a bunch of responses encouraging people to live in the honors dorm. And as you probably know, that's where you're encouraged to live your freshman year. And it's where I lived at the same time as Michael. And I think he can agree with me that most of my friends are people that I met while I was living in the honors dorm. And those are the people that I'm still very close with today, who I was roommates with even after I left the honors dorm. And I think the friendship element and the community element of both the fellowship and UARC honors is one of the more underrated elements.
Yeah, I kind of add on to that. I loved Sydney's point about you can find the competition if you want to. One thing that I think that I've loved just sort of in my peers and my cohort that I've developed after living in HOTS and after just being on campus longer, is that if you want to find that space where you're going to be pushed and you're going to be challenged to be sort of better and better every day, you can find that. You can find that in campus involvement. You can find it in sort of other spaces on campus. But I would really say that that word collaborative, I think, hits it like right on the nose, because not only are my peers people that I love to just hang out with and just be friends with, but we also encourage each other and pressure each other to like continue to be the all-star students that we were in high school and that we continue to be on our own campus here at the University of Arkansas. And that comes in many ways. Like I live with two students who are pre-med, and so I ask them for advice about my stuff that I want to get involved in, the internships that I'm pursuing, and I get to give them advice and encourage them to pursue opportunities in their specific field as well too. And I happen to live with 3 other fellows, which has been really awesome. And so that's where I think the word collaborative, rather than it being sort of like a spectrum between competitive and collaborative, it really is sort of more of a community that encourages each other to be better every day, and to seek those opportunities that you may not find if you didn't have sort of this group of people pushing you to be better. But that's where I think that the competition is less, and really it is that piece of collaboration that pushes this community along.
I will say I just noticed the chat question about not living in HOTS, and I didn't live in HOTS my freshman year. I was in Northwest Quad. And the process for doing that, I believe you have to attend a certain number of honors events to participate in the community, which is really not so much of a chore. You still get to meet people, you get to be immersed in the free pizza and meeting professors, things like that. Besides that, I think you just have to get a little extra approval. So I'm sure you can ask any of your advisors or whatnot about that process.
So there's another question. Molly wants to know, is there some kind of process for finding a roommate in HOTS? And I don't know if y'all want to speak on like your housing experience. One of y'all have already mentioned that there is a floor for fellows specifically. So that's already a thing. So there is designated space for you all. In terms of your roommates, though, did you all know somebody else in the process, or did you all just kind of get a random roommate?
I got a completely random roommate because I was from way back, and there were only maybe 7 people from my high school coming here, and I think I was the only fellow. So it was a nice surprise, and I got a really good roommate who happened to be nice enough to, I mean, he drove me around town, gave me a little tour of Fayetteville. We went to, where was it? We went to his house a few times. I met his family, his dog. I mean, it's just, it's nice. Haas is really nice.
I also had a random roommate. The process is that once you decide you're going to U of A and you like are granted the fellowship, you pretty much just like go through the reservation process, and you don't have to live on the 5th floor, but or for the girls, I think the guys are still on the 6th, but I recommend it. It was so much fun. My roommate and I, we weren't like best friends at all. I think that taught me a lot about what it means to be a good roommate. We kind of stay in touch now, but I found like my best friends on the floor and in the dorm in general. So yeah, keep in mind you don't always have to be best friends with your roommate either, even though that's definitely a perk. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know we're getting close to 7, but I just also wanted to say really quick, this is sort of a funny story about HOTS. My friends, for those who are anxious about maybe having a random roommate, my friends and I used to joke about our rooms in HOTS being sleep closets, and not because they're small, but really because we were out of our rooms so often that it almost really didn't matter like when we were in that space. And that really just goes to the community that is cultivated in HOTS, because we were excited every day to just kind of hang out in the lobby till late hours of the night, because it's freshman year of college, so you get to do it, and just like further build that community with all the people that get to live there with you. And so for people who are anxious, just know that if you're planning on living in HOTS, you will have a community of people, whether you're best friends with your roommate or not, kind of as Sydney was saying. So yeah.
It takes a village. HOTS is a village.
That is very true, Tyrel. All right, well, let's give a nice silent clap to our panelists. Thank you all so much. I know you're really busy this time of year. Midterms around, semester's really heating up in terms of classes and such. So thank you so much to our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedule to participate this evening. Thank you to all of the finalists who are in attendance as well. I hope you got some great information. This is our last meeting we're doing before the interviews on Monday. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email the honors account, honors@uark.edu. You will be getting reminders about your interview time, how to log in, all of those fun things over the next few days. Good luck to all of you, and let us know how we can help. But thanks again, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful evening.